welcome you folks. We're delighted to have you with us this afternoon with so many other things going on TV and elsewhere. We appreciate you taking time to watch our video this afternoon with us. This is the 9th of February of 2021, and I'm Don Snow. I'm in St. George, and Gerhard Roof, who you just heard from, is the host. He's up in Orem. He's hosting our Zoom program today. And this is being recorded and is also being sent out on Facebook and will eventually be on YouTube, on our UVTag YouTube channels. We appreciate you being here with us today. We remind you that coming up within this month on the 25th and 26th is the big Roots Tech Connect 221 meeting, which is all virtual this year from Salt Lake originally, but last I heard there were 250 presenters, including me, I'm doing one, and 1,100 classes in 31 different languages. It's really something, and it's all free. And there's a link on my notes I'll show you here in a minute as to where you can register for it if you'd like to. Anyway, today our subject is searching your computer, part 2. We'll talk about what part 1 was and part 3 and 4, what they're going to be coming up in the next couple of weeks. Today we're looking for text in files. How do you find a file on your computer that has the text that you remember, even if you don't remember what the title of the file was? Now, as usual, I want to show you an overview of the notes because the notes are online now, and Gerhard usually does a PDF of these and posts that in the chat as well. But if you're watching this later on, the notes are online at that URL. That's right there. I'm going to let's see, Control Tab and get to the notes. This is you're looking now at my let me move this over a little bit so it'll cover up make it a little bit bigger to cover that part. Okay, this is well, this is my notes page where that link took you to. It's UVTag, Utah Valley Technology and Genealogy Group.org. And then you can always get to it from that, and then resources and so on, but the link is on there. On this page are all of my notes for the classes, as well as other articles that I've written. And there's one article that I just wrote last week in this freeware corner thing, right there, that first one. I'm going to click on that one. I'm going to hold down the control key while I do it, though. That's opening this is a link that opens up the freeware corner articles, and that first one for February, which is published in our UV tag meeting, as well as on here, is on one of the programs that we're going to be talking about today, File Locator Lite, to find files with specified text. So this is an article, it's online, and it has a little bit more details as to some of the things that are related to it. Let's go back to back to my notes here, and down below here are the classes coming up. This is today's item 1. Today is the 9th of February, the second Tuesday in February, and there's a link right there to the notes. On the 4th Tuesday, which is 2 weeks from today, we'll be talking about part 3 of this. And then there's the Roots Tech. And the link right there, Roots Tech Connect. If you go to my webpage, that'll take you right to it, or just rootstech.org, I think it is. We'll get you there, and you can sign up if you want to sign up for the free program, the virtual program. And they tell me that those videos will be online for a year. So they should be there all this next year. So it's not just, even though the program is 3 days, there's a lot of other stuff on there that will be for the whole next year. And then in March, we're going to do these other classes, part 4 and so on. So all that stuff is there. Okay, now I'm going to click on this link, which takes us to the notes, searching your computer, part 2 today, text in files. And so here's there's an abstract there as to what we're going to be talking about. It's how do you find a file that has certain text that you remember, even if you don't know what the name of the file was. And I got a lot of files that are named weird things back in the days when we couldn't name anything more than 8 characters and 3 characters for the extension. And I have no idea what's in them, but this finds them and goes through them all. There's the welcome and the introduction, and there's my URL or my own email address. I guess that is my URL. And it'll, if you want to send me a note or something about it, the problem for today, etc. Now, these are files on your computer. We all have lots of files on there because there's both the files from the operating system as well as all the other stuff that we've generated and all kinds of extraneous stuff, and you lose stuff if you're like me. You can't find it later and so on, but we're going to, this part of what this whole class series is how do you find all those old files. There's more in part one. In part one, which we did 2 weeks ago, we talked about how do you find it if you remember something that's in the title, and there are free programs and so on to do it. So here's finding files containing a specified text. Now, we're not going to discuss everything that's in here, but we are going to spend most of the time talking about item 11 here, File Locator Lite. That's a free program, and there's where you get it from. And we're going to demonstrate that and how it works and what to do with it. The program that we talked about and that I use so much for finding file names, everything, I can't find any way to make that search inside of files. It does so many other things. I'm surprised that they haven't got that built into it too, but and it may be the way to do it, but I can't find it if so. So File Locator Lite is the item 11 here on the notes, is what we're going to be discussing mostly today. There are 2 or 3 other programs that are listed here. Item 12 is Info Rapid Search and Replace, another free program. Free for private use. It's old, but it still works fine. That works, and there's information about that. We probably won't take very much time to talk about that. And then here's another one. Item 13 is Text Crawler Free 3.0. That's a program that also does this same sorts of searching. All of these do similar sorts of searching. Then item 14 is the Windows search. Now, that's the easiest one to use of all because that's built right into Windows, but it's slow for finding search inside files, and you cannot you can't set it to just look through certain segments or certain folders. You have to do the whole thing. At least I haven't found any way to do the anything other than the whole thing. And then there's the conclusions. Okay, so those are the notes, and they're online, and you can get a copy. You can download it or just bookmark it so you can come back to it or whatever you want to. Now, let me go back to our program here. That's the overview of the notes, and there's the URL, https://uvtag.org, and then classes/dons/dons-classes.html. And that's where the notes are stored. Now, all this, everything we're doing today is for Windows, but some of these probably have Mac versions. I haven't checked to see because I don't use a Mac, but some of them probably do have, or there are equivalent programs. And so you can find equivalent programs by doing searches, etc. on there. Now, computer files. There are thousands of computer files on your computers. I showed last time, I guess in part one of this thing, that on this computer, this is my desktop computer. It's the one I use all the time. It's not my laptop. I use that for other presentations when I go other places. But since I'm doing this at home, I can use my desktop computer. This has, I think, what did we find out last week? 2.5 million files on it. So it's some phenomenal number. It's up in the millions of files and folders that are on this computer. It's got 3 different hard drives in it, and so one is one of these solid state hard drives. That's the one that it runs from. The others are the old standard disk flatter ones. But there's files stored on all those, and I really need to start cleaning them off. That's part of why I chose the subject for next time about duplicates, to try and figure out how to get some of those off. There are new files, old files, duplicates, all kinds of things, and finding them is not always easy because they get misnamed or get misplaced and so on. So I've set up a whole series. I was going to do this all in one shot, and then as I thought about it, I ended up thinking, well, I better do it in at least 2 or 3. I ended up now splitting it into 4 separate parts. Part one that we did before was by file name, searching for files by file name. This one today is part two, finding by file content. We're going to talk next, 2 weeks from today, on finding duplicate files, non-image duplicate files. And then part four, which will be in March, is going to be on finding duplicate images, because there are free programs that will help in solving all of these problems. And so this is part two, by the file content itself. Okay, now the searches for the text inside of files. Now, everything that I mentioned, that's the name of the program, if you remember. That one does not search inside files, but it is so useful. I use it at least 8 or 10 or 12 times a day for finding anything, because no matter where it is on your computer, it'll locate it if you remember anything, any name, any piece of the characters that are in the title of it. But unfortunately, it won't find inside. File Locator Lite is a free program that you can download, and the link was on those notes that you can download it. And it does searches, and that's what I want to spend time demonstrating today, the different possibilities and how to use it. The other programs are there, and again, if you use a Mac, well, you'll have to find Mac programs that do this comparable stuff. The Windows search does work, but it's pretty slow. And well, we may or may not take time to look at that. Here's examples and demos on this. So now I'm going to hold down, let's see, Control Tab, and go back to here. And this is these are the notes, searching your computer, part two, and so on. Now, on my computer, I have downloaded that File Locator Lite, and I've got it. Well, let's see, where is it? I've got it. I'll do a Control D. It's running. It looks like this big blob right here, File Locator Lite. I'm going to click on it and open it up. Here it is. Now I'll move it down a little bit so it'll cover up most of this stuff down at the bottom, but I'll move it so that it'll come over this way a little ways so that it's not quite so long. Okay, now this is the program after you've installed it. It's free. For private use. In fact, the Lite version is it's the same installation file as the Pro version, but they point out that the Lite version can be used for private use or for business use without, you don't need to worry, there's no nag screens, you don't need to pay for it at all. So it's available for no charge. It doesn't do everything that the Pro version does, and of course they hope that you'll like it enough and want to use the Pro version that you're going to pay for it. That's the way so many programs work, and this is one that is really helpful like that. Now you look across the top here, it says File, and then Edit, and then View, and Search, and so on. There's various things and helps and settings that you can set up there to show the things the way you want. And we may come back and spend some time up there, but most of the time I want to just demonstrate different searches on this computer with what's going on there. Okay, now you see there's 2 or 3 lines here that say something about what is the file name, the file name. If you know the particular file you want, then of course if you knew the one you wanted, you wouldn't be needing this program because you wouldn't be searching in it. But the file type is what I've got here. Notice I've got a star dot star. That means I'm looking for anything on any file. I haven't told it the folder yet, but any kind of a file. And we'll demonstrate in a few minutes. If you were only looking for text files from Word files, you could search for .doc and plus .docx. So that's the WordPerfect format. Or if you want old Word files. If you want to only search in ODT files, you'd put .odt, or you can put several combinations in there. We'll look at several of them. Now notice what I put in here on the next line, containing the text. I've got snow, and then in capital letters I've got AND and England. So what I'm searching for so far is I've said I want any file that contains snow and England inside. And now it says, okay, where do you want me to look? Look in, and I've got it set to look in on my D control. I've got a C, D, and E hard drives in here. I'm saying look on the D drive in the file, the folder that's called text files. So it's got text files in there. And if you look over on the right, I've got to put a check right there where it says subfolder. If I took that out, it would only search in the main file itself, but I wanted to search all the subfolders as well. Okay, and then there's a start and a stop and a pause button up here. I'm going to click start. Okay, now I click start, and now what you saw is what it's doing is it is searching through all of that particular folder, and it's searching for any file that contains the word snow and England, both those two terms. It found one here, 70 and H7 something. I have no idea what that was. An old file is probably way back in the 2000 or something when I did that one. Some of these others, there's an AFP file, etc. I've got this screen wider. I'm going to close this, move over there. I'm going to move that bar over so it doesn't, so it'll show more of what's in it. Now, as you arrow down over here on the left, these are the files. Over here is what it's found. So remember that it's looking for files that contain both snow and England. I didn't put caps on there, so it could be a snowstorm or it could be the name snow. And England doesn't have caps on it either. But look at what it found. Here it found in this particular file, this is a text file, it found snow there and England down here. And notice that it's highlighted over here on the right. And then the left column here is telling you what the line was in that file that it found those on. And it's still searching through. And down at the bottom, it tells you what it's looking for, how many files it's got to look for, and how far it's gotten. And in the meantime, when it's found these things, you can click on any one of these and see what's there. This one has England, but it must have snow in there somewhere. If I click over here to scroll down, the word snow must be in there somewhere. This is mostly England, but and those are all in blue. So snow, I think we had in a different color, didn't we? So someplace in that file, there's the word snow because it found both of them. Here's one. This is an HTML file, and there it's found snow. And where's England in there? I don't even see it. Am I getting? Oh, there's England right there. There's England. Yeah, so it's getting both. So here's a family history handout. I don't know whether that was one I wrote. It's 2006 is the date on it, so that's 15 years old. But it found that one, and it's got the word snow and so on in there. Now down at the bottom, it's showing. Let me see if I can raise this up because it's blocked by. There it is. It's blocked by my other taskbar thing down here. It's got 2,000 files to search in that particular text file, and it's gone through only 750 some of them now. I let this thing run the other day on 1,500 files, 15,000 files, and it did about 1,000 files per minute. But of course, it takes a lot longer as it goes through inside of files than it does in the names of files because there's so much more in there. But you're finding all this kind of stuff on there. And as I went through this, and with this, now there's an old WPD file. Some of you may remember the old WordPerfect. That was the moniker of WordPerfect back in the early days. They changed it later. In fact, you'll probably see there's a doc file. That's a window, Microsoft Word file. You probably remember WP. Well, WP2 was WordPerfect 2, and then WordPerfect 7 was WP7, WordPerfect 8 was WP8. All that stuff's on here in my old computers and old files. Look, here's one, letter for Brown, and my guess is I was using that code in 1996. That's probably 96, May of 96, but I'm not sure. But the word snow and England must be in that letter. And notice that it's finding all these things, but it's taken, it's got to go through searching through the whole thing. You can scroll down. There's a scroll bar over here. I'll just scroll up and down on this stuff, and you can see how many it's found. and what these things look like and the titles. And a lot of these I never would have thought to even look in for the different combinations. Now, let me move this scroll bar down here over so you can see what else is here. We're getting the location. That's the location where these files are. There's the size of the files. There's the type of file that it is. Oh, an ask file. That was an old ask. What was that program? I used it before I started using Evernote. Ask Sam. It was a note file. So there's a bunch of notes here from the old note file that had those things in. I think I converted most of those to my Evernote file, but maybe I didn't, and I probably ought to go through and look at some of those others in there. There's a bunch of those are in here. Now you can, and here's the date modified. You can search on, sort these things anyway. I'm going to click up here in this location. So I clicked in the location file. Now these are all sorted by what location they're in. So they're in dtext files, and then further on down, it'll start with the someplace in here it ought to tell us. There it is. I guess I sorted backwards. So now the text files, and then it'll start with the subfiles that are in there. Here's one on text files Dawn, and that's one that's in there. It's a Chrome HTML file, and Dawn or golly, boy, it's been a long time since I've even thought of that program. That was 2006, 15 years ago. Uh, but that was something that we used back in the early days. It's on my computer. The Ask Sam files are there and so on. So you can sort by the location. It was sorted by the name. And so if you want to go back to sort it by the name, you just go back over here and click. And of course, the names are going to jump down as it finds more things. It's going to change the location here, is going to move them up and down. But you can sort on all of those things. And each one you sort on, it shows it over here on the right. Now, I'm going to stop this thing so that it doesn't go on. I click stop over there. Now, there are various things you can do with this. You can export the results. There's ways you can save the whole thing. And there's the words up here about export and so on. But I want to illustrate a couple more things here. So rather than sorting on those, let's use and say I'll still sort for snow and England, but this time I only want to do it if it's a doc file. That's a WordPerfect or a Word file, or, and you use the pipe command, or a star.x, star.docx, because they changed to docx's, or let's add a star.text file. So that's just a straight text file. And I probably ought to put in here RTF, or star.rtf. That's rich text files. Some of you remember this stuff in some rich text file. Or let's add an ODT dot ODT. ODT is open document text. That's the one that is used by LibreOffice and the other free things. Now I click start again. Now notice I left the same thing. I'm still searching for snow in England, but I'm only searching in those types of files. Click start. And so now it's only finding those files. So there's a doc file, there's a text file. Now these things jump because it's coming up with new stuff down as it goes further down. Text, there's a rich text file. Here's a text file. There's a text file. Text, probably no ODTs until later because I didn't start using that until, probably 10 years ago. But anyway, you can see the difference on the thing. And each one of these things that are, when you highlight it, it shows you in the right panel what the solution that you found over there in the left panel with the words highlighted in there. Now let's leave that. Let's stop that, and let's do a search for something else. Let's put, I want to do a search now for Donald R. Snow. So I want exactly this combination. So I'm putting it in quotation marks. Now that means search for the exact phrase. And I'll leave those same kinds of files. And I'll say, yeah, still searching these text files. And start it off. And just click start. And here's files now that have only, let's click on one of these, Donald R. Snow, exactly. And now it tells you down here how many it's got to look through. It's got 300 and, well, it keeps finding new files, 384 of them. It's been through all 384. So in the files of that type, in that particular directory, I don't know. I guess it's still finding them. Still finding more because you can see the bar is still going up here on the right. It's still moving. So it's still looking for more stuff. 392, but it's not finding very many more files, and it's being able to search those as fast as it finds the new files. 94, and so on. So that's the number that that are here as to what it's found. There's a BYU computer genealogy conference in 2009. That's probably a talk I gave or something there at the time. I use different codes at different times for different things, and so I need to go back and refresh things and figure out what's going on. But now you get the idea as to how to do it, and it's not too hard to do. Let me stop that and show you over here at the on this line where it says look in. If you go over to the right after where it says subfolders, there's a folder. If you click on that file folder, it opens up the hierarchy spread here so that you can actually find what you're looking for without having to type it in. So if I want to look through the that's Edgemont Meadows Homeowners Association, that's down here, or just if I just want to look through family history ones, I'd just click family history FH. That was my code. By the way, the 1 and 2 and so on is just so these sort in the order I want them. So you don't have to sort them alphabetically. By putting a number in front of it, it'll sort in the order you want. And then if I don't care what the order is, if it's not one I use often, I just let it go down in alphabetical order further down. So I'll use the F1 and I'll say select that folder and select, so look for these kinds of things and see if you can find Donald R. Snow in that and start and see what happens. Oh, look, all kinds of them. BYU 2005 computerized genealogy conference. And so the stuff is in there. Now, this is a very helpful program and it's free. This is the stripped down version. This is the light version. And they hope that you like this one enough that you'll buy the other one. But for most of us, for what we need as family historians, this is fine because you seldom, at least I seldom, have to find stuff in these old file folders that I don't remember the title or I don't know something that's in the title. Now, let me stop that and see if there's anything else on here that I wanted to mention to you. There are other things that you can put restrictions in here. You can put the size. You only want size bigger than such and such or smaller than such and such, or dates between such and such a dates or something. That will simplify it if you know something about that, but you may or may not know something about that. And then there's someplace in here, there's an export thing that tells you that you can export the results in different ways to get the results out. And down at the bottom, across this bottom thing, it gives you the information about the file and about what it searched and how far it got and how long it took. Like it found 27 kilobytes of stuff here, and the search time was 41 seconds. We let it run on that one, and it found all this stuff in 41 seconds. Now,
I noticed that S&E Campbell raised his hand.
Oh, okay. Go ahead and ask your question.
I just have a quick question before you leave this page. Up in the file name, you did a star.doc, but over to the ODT, you didn't include a star. It still found ODT files. Do you need?
I didn't put star. I should have put star in there. I wonder what. I don't know what that does. It found ODTs down here, didn't it?
Yes, it did find some. Okay.
Maybe you don't have to put that star in front. I don't know the answer to that. Can't tell you because I always put the star.odt in front, but I didn't there. But if it found ODTs in here, then it looks like it does it without that.
Yes, it did find some earlier. Okay,
so maybe it will do it. We'll have to experiment and see what we'll see what the thing says on there. Yeah, thanks. I didn't look at that, Brother Campbell.
I was just curious how that went. Thank you.
Okay, good. All right, now let's let me get back over here to we've back to the slideshow. We've looked at some examples. Here's the summary as to what we did. We talked about computer files, and the computers are loaded with them, and trying to find them and get them organized is, it occurred to me the other day that, when people die, their kids have to go through all kinds of, it used to be stuff. Now, besides stuff, there's computer digital files. And I thought, oh my goodness, when my kids have to go through my computers, oh golly, if I could get it organized before I die, it'll be so much better for them. Just like organizing the stuff before you die. But there's thousands of computer files on there. Finding by what's inside is what we've looked at today. Finding by title is what we looked at 2 weeks ago. And finding duplicates and other stuff is what we're going to see later. So we looked at primarily that File Locator Lite program, completely free for private and for commercial use, but the Lite version is completely free. There are other programs, and if you're using a Mac, you'll have to find one that relates to the Macs, and there's undoubtedly stuff that's like this for Macs. And then part 3, we're going to be talking about finding duplicate files, but non-image files, first of all. I was going to do all the finding duplicate files together, and then I thought, well, there's 2 separate programs that I use, one that finds non-image files and one that finds image files. So I split that up into 2 separate pieces. Are there any other questions or any comments that any of you have? And if you have, just unmute your mic, hold down the shift key, the space bar, not shift key, the space bar on your, if you're using a Windows computer, that'll turn your mic on.
I have a question for you, Don.
Okay.
Once you find something, how do you get in? How to get into it? On the right-hand side, you can see, is that the topic or is that the whole thing? It seems to.
Yeah, that's not the whole thing over there. That's only the lines that have what you're searching for.
That's what I. But how do you get into it and see what it is?
There's you can click on it. I don't know whether you noticed, but there was a line up above there. You can click on it and open it up, or you can copy the whole thing, the line, the name over on the other side, and save it off, and then find it later. But there is a way you can even click and export the whole thing as well.
Okay.
And I did notice, I don't know whether you noticed, but I found in there, maybe I didn't illustrate it today, but I searched for, in one of the files, I began searching and found old path file names, the old path. And then it began to find, I began to find Ancestral Quest. It even searches those databases. I suppose, I haven't tried it, but my guess is it'll search Roots Magic files too, and find those. Even if you don't have the Roots Magic program or the Ancestral Quest program, because it's stored in a text format, it knows enough to find those. And I was dumbfounded when I found that last week and I saw path files coming up. Goodness, I haven't looked at those for 20 years. But there's there with the name and the date, and all the stuff is in there. Anything else? Any other questions anybody has?
Good show, Don.
Thanks, Bruce. Appreciate it. Okay, well, anyway, that's the story. Searching your computer part 2, text in files and how you find them. And so I appreciate you watching and being with us today. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks for the others. And there is a Freeware Corner article that I wrote last week that'll be coming out this week in our UV Tag meeting. Well, UV Tag, it'll be coming out, be sent out to the members Friday. But it's on my website now. But those who are members of the UV Tag, this next Saturday, we have a great program coming up Saturday morning. And that'll be on Zoom and on Facebook. And the Tagology that we'll send out on Thursday, Marilyn Thompson, who is our editor for that and does a great job for that. She's got my article already, and it's an article that's in there as well as on my webpage. Thank you, you people. Appreciate you.